cute babies that are soft and fluffy and smell like milk, a sweet child who calls me mommy and follows me around, the fruit of love with the person you love. I think there are many couples who work hard on fertility treatments with the hope of having a child. We were supposed to be one of them. Our wish for a child is supposed to be the same. Yet, how did this happen? I'm Nora, a part-time homemaker, turning 35 this year. My husband Kenneth, who is 2 years older than me, and I have been married for 3 years. We met through a volunteer group related to children. I love kids, so I joined in to help, and it was soothing for me. My husband felt the same way, even joking about wanting enough kids to form a baseball team in the future. We talked about many dreams, like how many boys and girls we wanted, what names we'd choose, and even planning to build a house with a swing in the living room. So we introduced each other to our parents soon after we started dating. And a year later, we got married. We were both already over 30 years old, so we thought it would be better to have children sooner if we wanted to have many. And yet, 3 years later, we still had no children. This cycle didn't work out again. Disappointed that the implantation didn't happen this month, I report to my husband.
Oh, I see.
He probably didn't have any expectations anymore. My husband's response was nonchalant. Without any evidence to the contrary, I thought that once I got married, I would have children. But we realized it wasn't that simple in the first year. In the second year, I tried to improve my chances on my own by measuring basal body temperature, creating a menstrual chart, warming my body, and incorporating fertility-enhancing practices. In the third year, I finally mustered the courage to step into the obstetrics and gynecology department. I tried my best, but there was no progress. Or rather, the gynecologist has told me, "There's no issue with your body. That means your husband needs to be tested." Hey, why not go for a test just once?
Nah, I'm fine. I haven't had any issues in my health checkups.
But infertility tests aren't part of regular checkups, right?
But I'm not the one giving birth.
I'm the one giving birth, but the seed is from you, right? Male tests aren't painful, and they're quick.
But it's embarrassing.
I am embarrassed and in pain every time. Suppressing the desire to complain, I try to convince my husband somehow. Since timed intercourse isn't working, I'd like to move on to the next step soon. Because you're going to have enough kids to make a baseball team, right? Can he only say I think it's his male pride, but if he doesn't endure and get tested, we can't move forward. Even if the test results for my husband are bad, I'm prepared to live with it. I want children, but my husband is more important. I wonder if he doesn't know about my thoughts and efforts, or if he's just pretending not to see. Today, like always, my husband ignored my wishes and just played with his phone. And there's one more person who doesn't understand this situation besides my husband.
Still no children.
My mother-in-law, who visited our house on my day off, delivered harsh words as usual. Yes.
It's bad that you're working. You should quit soon.
But the treatment costs money.
If you quit your job, you can do it right away, so you won't need treatment fees, right?
If it were that easy, I would quit my job too.
Change hospitals. You should get tests done at a place with better facilities to find any abnormalities.
Abnormalities, you say? That's quite a statement, isn't it? It presupposes that there's a problem with my body. If you want grandchildren that badly, can you ask Kenneth to get tested too, Mom? I couldn't help but let my true feelings slip due to the constant blame directed at me every single time. My mother-in-law, who dotes on her son, turns into a demonic figure at any slight criticism of her son.
Are you trying to say that my son is the problem?
It's not so much that he's the problem. The doctor is also troubled because without my husband getting tested, they can't determine the treatment plan.
There couldn't possibly be anything wrong with my son. Don't blame my son or the doctors just because you're barren.
Yes, barren.
Feels like it's from another time, doesn't it? I mean, who even uses that word anymore? I understand not wanting to admit the possibility of there being a problem with your precious son. But what kind of thought process is it to conclude that I'm the one at fault? Seriously, that's why I told my son to find a younger wife. My mother-in-law mutters to herself, as if for show. Her reactions are always like this, so I just tune her out. Years of snide remarks have left me numb, in one ear and out the other. Yes, just passing through. Then, it was more of the same for a while. Even though I was the only one going to the hospital, and even after the doctor said timing therapy wouldn't work, I still couldn't get my husband's cooperation. However, despite refusing tests, my husband was proactive about baby making. But at a certain point, even that stopped. Without even that effort, we won't conceive unless the stork physically delivers. But after the long struggle with infertility, I felt a bit relieved. Relieved not to be on edge, disappointed, and frustrated about my cycle. My husband thought it was just a break, so he didn't pay it much mind. But that wasn't the case. I want a divorce. One day, my husband suddenly handed me divorce papers. Why? I was bewildered by the unexpected turn of events. My husband smiled and said, "Because we can't have children." It's not just my problem, is it? If you get tested, maybe we could. That's it. He looked down on me as if I were something dirty. It's not like I'm defective, is it? I'm fed up with being treated like that. No, I just wanted a child with you. I thought you did too. So we tried together as a couple. They say women have high-risk pregnancies at 35, right? Your body can't handle it anymore. How could he say such awful things so easily? Just like his mother. I want children, so I decided to find someone else. Find someone else? My husband says it like it's no big deal, but basically, in everyday terms, divorce, remarriage, or are you saying you've been cheating? Please refrain from using such vulgar language. I've simply chosen a younger woman who can bear children. How cruel. You're the cruel one, aren't you? You broke the promise to have lots of children. I can't deal with infertility treatments anymore. Exactly. Mom? My mother-in-law, who had somehow entered the house, glared at me with the same eyes as my husband. We should have done this from the beginning. I found the next bride myself. Huh? She's a young, cute, and obedient girl. She'll surely become a wonderful wife and have lots of children, unlike you. Certainly, my mother-in-law had always said she wanted a young bride. But who could have imagined they would actually plan to replace me while the marriage was still ongoing? What do they think of me? Are they trying to replace me because I'm broken and can't produce children anymore? As the unbelievable situation began to sink in, the anger I had pushed away began to resurface. I've had enough. All the hopes and dreams I had held on to for the past 3 years were shattered. I hate to think that the pain and suffering of these past 3 years were all for nothing. I don't want children connected to these people by blood. I don't want to sacrifice my precious life for such a man. I understand. I'll agree to the divorce. Biting my trembling lips out of anger, I played the understanding wife. It's good that you're so understanding. But in return, I'll be taking alimony from both you and your mistress. Well, even though you're the one at fault, that's why you can't have children. Mom, it's okay. She'll be living as a single woman from now on, so I should support her financially. That's my proud son. I swiftly pack my bags while my mother-in-law stares at her son, completely captivated, and he's lost in his own self-absorbed world. I'll provide the money, so don't go turning into a stalker of the new wife, okay? I don't want her to get hurt or injured because you're jealous and get violent. How can I be jealous of such a cold man? I understand. Just never show up in front of me again. Well, that's obvious. I thought I might want to catch a glimpse of the new woman who chose a man like this. But as long as he pays me properly, that's fine. Anyway, I wanted to escape from this den of horrors as soon as possible. We only had one discussion about the alimony, but my husband, who was ecstatic to marry a young wife, paid me well. My mother-in-law kept grinning, and my husband's existence was like air, empty until the end. I can't believe I was involved with such a family. Once single again, I applied for a transfer to a new department at work. I was transferred to a location slightly further away in the state. I used up the compensation I received on a trip overseas with friends to leave no regrets. I had been saving money for the child I was supposed to have someday, so I wasn't worried about my future life. It feels good to spend money on myself. I learned that the world is vast and full of enjoyable things, even without a husband or children. Feeling refreshed, I immersed myself in work and hobbies for a while and enjoyed my days. It was during such a time that I met a charming man after a long time. Our hobbies and values matched, and we had similar senses of humor. I couldn't help but have a great time when I was with him. He also had many nieces and nephews whom he adored. He said he would like to have children of his own, but he wouldn't feel lonely if he didn't. His parents also laughed, saying they already had enough grandchildren. 5 years after the divorce, I remarried him. I was 40 at the time, so I had given up on having children. But to my surprise, I found out I was pregnant, and it was twins of all things. My husband, who said he didn't care about the gender, was also overjoyed. In addition to being an older mother, I had twins. Due to pregnancy complications and being bedridden most of the time, my husband and in-laws went out of their way to take care of me. Even though they didn't say it, my parents had been worried about me all along, and they shed tears of joy when I announced my pregnancy. And the twins, a boy and a girl, were safely born. It was reassuring to have my experienced in-laws help with childcare. Parenting was quite challenging, but surrounded by a kind family, I was living happily every day. One day, I went to the largest shopping mall in the area. As I leisurely walked around the shops pushing a large stroller for the twins, I noticed a man staring at me intently. I wonder who he is. An acquaintance, perhaps? Ignoring my suspicious look, the man raised his voice. "Hey, Nora." "Is that you, Kenneth?" It was my ex-husband, whom I had separated from 5 years ago. After the divorce, my ex-husband was a recurring nightmare, but I had completely forgotten about him since becoming pregnant with twins. His face and physique had changed significantly. He had gained a lot of weight and looked very unhealthy. Do you have children?" He stared at the stroller with a bewildered expression. "Weren't you infertile?" This man, he still had the nerve. I told you many times, there was nothing wrong with my body. I'm not as incompetent as your mother says. Huh? Where is that voice coming from? Then I noticed a woman standing next to my ex-husband. In contrast to my overweight ex-husband, she looked like she had lost a lot of weight. From a distance, she seemed to be in her 40s, but upon closer inspection, she seemed to be not even in her 30s yet. There was only one person I could think of. Is this the current wife? Yes. Then, is she the one who you cheated on me with at that time? Huh? Cheated? Well, wait. The wife looked bewildered, and the ex-husband looked pale. I realized the awkward situation. Oh, so this guy messed up here too. You didn't know this guy was married. I heard he had divorced long before we started dating. His ex-wife left him because she couldn't have children. That's not true. It's because of me, who was trying to conceive. No way. I was introduced to you as her proud single son by your mother. His mother was in on it too. She drove me away for him to remarry you. Hey, enough already. My ex-husband panicked and tried to cover my mouth. I pushed his hand away. You're such a despicable man to blame infertility on your wife and cheat with a young girl. And I continued. But I'm glad you brought up divorce at that time. Even if the cause of infertility was because of you, I was planning to stay by your side forever. Thanks to you, I have these adorable twin babies. Goodbye, then. I smiled at my sleeping child in the stroller, then left as if showing off. Before parting ways, I wrote my phone number on the back of the shopping receipt. Then, I gently held the hand of the absent-minded woman standing nearby. It felt cold, rough, and sadly empty. "It's not your fault." I could tell her thin shoulders trembled as I whispered that in her ear. Later on, it seemed they got divorced. How do I know? Because the woman who used to be my ex-husband's wife told me. She didn't know she was the other woman, nor did she realize there was a chance the house had been sown with seeds of infidelity. Apparently, like me, she had been blamed by her ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law for not being able to have children. The young and earnest woman seemed to have spent even longer than me taking it to heart, but it seems my revelation woke her up. Her parents were furious at the unjust blame placed on their daughter. When her husband was forced to undergo tests at the hospital, it turned out he was almost infertile. The doctor told him that if he had undergone treatment when he was a bit younger, there might have been a chance. Truly, it's too foolish. After she explained the circumstances of their divorce, she apologized to me. She didn't deserve any blame. So I told her she could find happiness by spending her settlement money on enjoyable things just like I did. She's still young, so I'm sure she'll have plenty of good encounters ahead of her. But I can't imagine such luck would come to the worst ex-husband. Not long after breaking up with her, my ex-husband called me out of the blue. He still believed I loved him the most, so he asked if I'd come back. Of course, with the children. He was confident he could love them, if they were mine. He even suggested that there might be traces of his genes left in me from our time together, and that it wouldn't be wrong to say that those children are his.
Can't you see it that way?
My spine shivers as if frozen. I absolutely don't see it that way. It's really creepy, so spare me. Because your head is in the clouds like that, no children came to you. Understand? You should just spend your whole life looking after the mother who loves scummy men like you. You told me not to get close to the new bride out of jealousy. Remember that? I don't think so. I hung up the phone, ignoring the pathetic voice clinging on. It seems my ex-husband is being belittled by his own mother, called defective or something, but he brought it upon himself. My ex-mother-in-law probably won't ever get to hold the grandchild she so desperately wanted. It's all their fault, just deserts for their actions. Anyway, I'm busy today with childcare and housework for the twins.
Come here and look. The kids are standing up on their own.
Wait, I'll get the camera ready.
Hold on, kids. Mommy's sitting in the car, so wait.
Hey, Dad, that's a bit too much, you know. As doting parents, my husband and I are desperate not to miss a moment of our children's growth. Of course, childcare isn't all fun and games. But the moment when my husband smiles proudly at our children, who show us their smiles, is the happiest. What we wanted back then is right here now. May these precious days continue forever and ever.